The man accused of offering to perform an illegal circumcision speaks out.
Despite the seriousness of the allegations, and here no doubt they are, that he is still entitled to the due process.
With shrimp and crab numbers dwindling, is cod the fishery of the future?
I don't think that you're going to see cod coming up very quickly.
Trudeau takes to Broadway with a message.
Even in those darkest moments, we can lean on each other.
In the weather department, it's flurries for St. Patrick's Day, and it's a pretty quiet weekend. Sheila's messy mop next week. The details are coming up.
Welcome to Here and Now, our top story tonight. The latest on the man charged with practicing medicine without a license in the Carbonear area. Last night, in a CBC exclusive, a Conception Bay North woman alleged that 23-year-old Josh Chubbs offered to perform an illegal circumcision on her son. Tonight, Chubbs' lawyer is speaking on his client's behalf. Here and Now's Glenn Payette is live with the latest. Glenn, what's the lawyer saying?
Well, let me start by saying it's unusual for a lawyer to speak when a client's been charged, but that's what Jonathan McDonald was willing to do. So I asked him why.
One, it certainly allows him to focus on taking care of himself and allows me to, if at all possible, answer any of the questions or give a comment if appropriate. But also, it just is an opportunity to reaffirm all of the same rights that we say time and time again, that despite the seriousness of the allegations, and here no doubt they are, that he is still entitled to the due process, fair trial, and all rights that everyone else would be afforded, regardless of the type of charge.
Last night on Here and Now, a woman from Conception Bay North told us how Chubbs had contacted her and said he could perform medical procedures on her son, including a circumcision, if needed.
He said, yes, I don't brag about it or tell lots of people, so I'd rather this was between us. But I did training in pediatric urology, so I was just trying to help.
Has he had any kind of medical training?
Again, it's something I can't get into at this juncture.
The woman says she and Chubbs communicated on Facebook. McDonald says people have to remember that social media can be manipulated. Well, it sounds to me like you're saying that your client might be the victim of a very malicious hoax.
You know, that's not something that I'm going to say with 100% confidence at this point, so I'll definitely elaborate upon it and say it's certainly within the realm of possibility. I'm not saying it's definitive or anything like that, but I'm just saying because of how unregulated something like that is and the inability to contain it until we've had an opportunity to go through the court process, we can't definitively speak to anything because anybody can say or claim anything.
While the charge against Chubbs says he allegedly practiced medicine without a license, it doesn't say specifically what he is supposed to have done. Donald says he hasn't seen any of the disclosure or evidence yet and doesn't know what the charge is based on. Chubbs is slated to appear in court in Harbour Grace April 12th. Peter?
Thank you very much. Glenn Payette reporting live tonight, and we will have more from lawyer Jonathan McDonald. That's coming up in about 45 minutes on Here and Now. And to another story now, the citizens representative has done his investigation, and he's concluded that Workplace NL's treatment of Don Dunphy was appropriate. The investigation came out of the judicial inquiry looking into the shooting death of Dunphy. Now, Barry Fleming was asked to report on the government agency's dealings with Dunphy. Here Now's Mark Quinn reports.
At the inquiry into his death, Don Dunphy was often described as a man living in poverty. His social media posts made it clear he had a grievance with this place, Workplace NL, and that's what the citizens representative was asked to investigate.
These photographs illustrate how Dunphy lived. He had a 30-year relationship with Workplace NL, commonly known as workers' comp. That relationship started with a workplace injury in the 1980s. At the inquiry into his death, Dunphy's family doctor testified that Dunphy lived in chronic pain as he raised a daughter by himself on the income he received from Workplace NL. The citizens' representative was asked to investigate if workers' comp followed its own policies when it came to Dunphy's case.
We found that, they accepted his claims in a timely fashion. They didn't perceive him to be a malingerer or a fraud. They treated him with respect. When they made decisions, they supported those decisions with reasoning and with the appropriate legislation and policy.
It's unlikely this response would have satisfied Dunphy. His grievance was with the very policies that Workplace NL followed.
He had a problem with what that legislation and policy meant for him and for other injured workers. It's a policy that doesn't give full pre-injury benefits, employment benefits post-injury. It's a policy that claws back 75% of Canadian pension plan disability benefits.
Barry Fleming made two recommendations. First, he said injured workers should be offered social and psychological services. And second, he said injured workers should be educated about what their lives would be like if the workers' compensation system didn't exist. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, Paul Rich is facing charges from the time that he ran the Innu Development Partnership, but that hasn't stopped him from getting a key job with the Innu Nation. Tonight, at least one former employee is raising concerns. Here now's Jacob Barker explains.
Paul Rich had little to say when we reached him by phone about his current role with the Innu Nation or about the allegations of fraud he is facing from his time as CEO of IDLP. The matter is before the courts, so he says he has no comment. The issue has been a lightning rod in the community since 2012 when irregularities inside the company came to light and members protested his big salary, collecting $1 million over 2 years, according to an audit. Rich was fired and eventually charged with fraud in 2015 after a lengthy investigation. The audit revealed Rich allegedly received close to $1.5 million between 2008 and 2012. Earlier this month, after a preliminary inquiry, a judge decided there's enough evidence for the charges against him to go to trial. Paul Rich confirmed his role as Resource Agreement Coordinator for the Innu Nation to the CBC. His LinkedIn page says he's held the position since October. Jerome Jack, who did a similar job with the Innu Nation, was fired. He wonders why leaders hired on Rich.
To hire you while you're being charged for fraud, I don't know how to explain that. They should have waited for the court's decision first on the final outcome of the whole situation regarding Paul.
We should be clear that Paul Rich has not been convicted of fraud. These are allegations. The Innu Nation refused to comment, saying the matter is before the courts. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
We now know when the province will unveil its spending plans for the coming year. The government confirmed today that April 6th is going to be budget day. It's a budget that has many people on pins and needles. The province's finances are not good. Finance Minister Cathy Bennett has already warned that government is focused on getting its financial house in order. The Liberals have cut hundreds of millions in spending and hundreds of civil service jobs, but the deficit for this past year is still predicted at more than $1.5 billion. Well, the Bull Arm fabrication site has played a big role in the development of this province's oil industry, but it's about to fall very silent. The Hebron oil platform will leave Trinity Bay in the coming weeks, ending a nearly 6-year construction project that has created thousands of big-paying jobs and billions in spending. Nalcor Energy is now scrambling to find new uses for the site, and it's not closing the door on an outright sale of the property. Here and Now's Terry Roberts has that story.
This is Bull Arm a year ago. A ribbon of vehicles leaving the site at shift change. Thousands of workers helping build the multi-billion-dollar Hebron offshore oil platform. Well, that activity is rapidly coming to an end. Hebron will be towed to the Grand Banks this spring, becoming this province's 4th producing oil field. So what's next for Bull Arm? The province's energy corporation is trying to find an answer to that question.
We can't guarantee there's going to be work out at Bull Arm, but one thing we will do is we're looking at doing whatever we can to ensure that both the local, national and international marketplaces know what Bull Arm has to offer.
Part of that marketing includes this promotional video describing Bull Arm as Atlantic Canada's largest industrial fabrication site. Potential users have until April 25th to submit proposals to Nalcor. Oil and gas, manufacturing, shipbuilding, it's all on the table. And if someone wants to buy Bull Arm, Nalcor is willing to listen.
If that were to come in, we'd have to assess whether or not that's in the best interest of the province. I'm not saying we're selling the site, I'm saying we're just looking for information in terms of what the opportunities might be out there for the site.
Bull Arm has a long history with the oil industry, dating back to the construction of Hibernia, this province's first producing oil field. And it's been a moneymaker for the province in recent years, bringing in more than $17 million in lease payments from ExxonMobil last year alone. But that lease expires a year from now, and there's nothing in the pipeline for Bull Arm. Now, Husky Energy is expected to announce very soon that it's going to build a wellhead platform for the White Rose oil field. But its concrete base, it will be built in Placentia. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
The stories about children and youth in the government's care in this province are often horrific. Parents abusing children, a toddler's death, tragedies that should have been avoided. With decades of reviews and reports, what will it take to change the province's child protection system? Here Now's Megan McCabe explores that question tonight.
A 20-year-old man is suing the provincial government for failing to protect him from his abusive mother. Sadly, his case wasn't an isolated incident, but shows the depth of problems within the province's child protection system. Around the same time, in what a judge called a house of horrors, the same thing was happening to children in another family. How does this happen? Children abused under the noses of government social workers. It may have something to do with the philosophy.
The way forward is to return as many children as possible to their families and to their own individual support systems. Our goal and objective, once we remove a child, is always, always to try to get the child back with their families, with their caregivers, with their relatives as soon as possible. So that's the way forward. That's the number one goal and objective always, and always will continue to be.
It may be the way forward, but a former child and youth advocate wonders how many reviews and recommendations it'll take for the government to protect children. When Carol Chafe retired in 2016, she was clearly frustrated.
Unfortunately, I can't tell you we're seeing the change enough on the front line.
10 years before Chafe retired, there was the Turner Review. Zachary Turner was just 13 months old in 2003 when he was killed by his mother in a murder-suicide. Even though she was charged with killing the boy's father, the government let him live with her. That 2006 review said Zachary Turner absolutely should not have died, and it recommended changes to benefit all children at risk in Newfoundland. 10 years before Turner, another report. In 1996, the very same year the young man who is suing the government today was born, the government was asking the public how to fix a broken child welfare system. Even 20 years ago, it was just another in a pile of government reports. The 96 report said time and time again, individuals and groups complained that these reports had been shelved.
Now, we're out looking at how these studies that are gathering dust can be used. And so I'm hopeful that some of the policy suggestions that we make will be put in place. We're trying to be realistic about it.
1996, 2006, 2016, the government ordered another review of child welfare. Talk to social workers today, they'll tell you there are still major problems in the system.
I beg to differ. It has been happening. It's a very slow process. The protection of children is very complicated. Every single case has intrinsic details that are complicated and complex, and every case has to be treated individually.
The lawsuit against the government today says it failed to protect vulnerable children. That's exactly what these reports over 20 years say. Will the latest review fix what these couldn't? Megan McCabe, CBC News, St. John's.
Come From Away was a platform for Canadian-American diplomacy last night when Ivanka Trump joined Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his wife Sophie at the Broadway show. The U.S. President's daughter and advisor was in the audience for a musical about one country welcoming those from another. Here Now's Angela Antle explains.
Many audience members didn't realize they'd be here to witness Trudeau-mania, and no one expected a Trump to show up. Come From Away is a story of opening arms to strangers, something the Trump administration has been trying to legislate against with its travel bans. Razia Khan saw the irony and tweeted, "Trudeau at Broadway's Come From Away, lauding Canada and USA's unique friendship, while Trump complains about his travel ban block at a rally." Before the curtain went up, Trudeau took the stage at the Gerald Schoenfeld Theatre and pointed out that Come From Away is an example of U.S.-Canada friendship.
The deep ties of economics, of business, of friends, of culture, of people traveling back and forth, of families, of all these connections. And this story, this amazing show is very much about that.
After the performance, Trudeau met the Gander people who inspired the story, as well as the cast. And he had this to say about the show's message of welcoming strangers.
This story really shows that even in those darkest moments, we can lean on each other, and being there for each other in times of difficulty is something that Newfoundlanders get, and it's certainly something that Canadians and Americans get.
Michael Paulson, who's covered Come From Away for the New York Times, says the show is getting great word of mouth and may actually be helped by Trump's anti-immigration policies.
The show's message about encountering the stranger, about welcoming the other, is more striking now because it's at odds with public policy, both in Britain and the US, each of which are now in a moment of greater hostility toward immigrants. And so I think a lot of people are focusing on that aspect of the show.
Having a sitting PM, Trudeau, a former PM, Chrétien, and the president's daughter and advisor, Ivanka Trump, in the audience won't hurt Come From Away's efforts to recoup the $12 million price tag that this show cost. For Here and Now, I'm Angela Antle in New York.
While you've heard of food banks, how about a furniture bank to help out people who don't have staples like a couch or a table? That story's coming up in a few minutes. The St. John's taxi driver has been found guilty of breaking into a home while he was on the job. The verdict came down at Newfoundland and Labrador Supreme Court late this afternoon. The CBC's Rob Antle was there and has the details.
Decision day for Lolzum Jacopage, accused of break and enter after taking a woman in his cab from downtown St. John's to this Kilbride home around 3 a.m. last May. Jacopage admitted driving her there, but told police he left immediately afterwards and went back to a cab stand near George Street, where CCTV cameras filmed a taxi like his 15 minutes later.
I knows myself, I done nothing but make sure she get home safe.
After weighing the evidence, Chief Justice Raymond Whalen rejected that story, saying he was convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that Jacopage was the intruder in the Kilbride residence that night. The Crown called eyewitness evidence. Neighbors who saw a citywide taxi driver get out of his vehicle after dropping off the woman that night, walking towards the house, then leaving in a hurry minutes later. And testimony from a man inside the house who confronted an intruder he identified as Jacopage. The judge remanded Jacopage into custody after finding him guilty of break and enter with the intent to commit an indictable offense. A sentencing hearing is set for May. But this isn't the end of potential legal problems facing Jacopage. He'll go on trial this fall on 2 separate charges of sexual assault over incidents that also allegedly happened while he was on the job as a taxi driver. Rob Antle, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, you've heard of food banks. It's a place where people who need food can go for help. Well, there's something similar being set up in St. John's involving furniture. And this morning they received somewhat of a new lease on life. It's called the Home Again Furniture Bank, where people in need can get free used furniture. This morning, the organization unveiled its partnership with local engineering firm Genoa Design International. Operators of the Furniture Bank say it's great that a business wants to be part of an innovative way to help people who are more vulnerable in society. Yvonne Knight works at Genoa, and she volunteers to deliver the furniture people need.
It's an interesting experience to go through because you don't really think of your city as being in need because it's not what I see every day. So going into homes was amazing to see that we could deliver furniture to a family that needed it or an individual that needed it. We had great experiences where we went into some homes and they had nothing. And to go in with a couch, a coffee table, a dining room table, it was amazing. And the look on their faces was just like, thank you.
Well, you would think that having to use a snowblower to clear off the roof of your home would be a once-in-a-lifetime experience, but not for Janice Gould and Rick Cooper. This is their house in Port au Choix on the Northern Peninsula. It was partially buried in snow for the second time after a storm last weekend. The snow comes from the hill behind their house, and as you can see, they used creativity in figuring out how to get rid of all that snow. They got out the snowblower and started blowing it off, but it took a while and it worked. And now all is right again at Janice Gould and Rick Cooper's home.
I remember those folks' names, Janice Gould in particular. They forwarded us a picture. This was a couple of years ago where their house was completely buried after a blizzard up there. They're in a rough spot there. It drifts in just ever so perfect. So snowblower on the roof, yeah, they got a rough spot. You're definitely going to want to keep that snowblower gassed up.
Makes everybody else feel a little bit better about the drifts that they're dealing with in front of their house when at least your house isn't buried.
That's true. Okay, let's take a look at what we've got going on here in terms of the watches and warnings. Well, we have just warnings and advisories now still in place for Happy Valley, Goose Bay, Eagle River, and Cartwright, still under the winter storm warning. Blowing snow advisories for Rigolette and up through Postville, Makovic, and to Hopedale. Generally here another 5 to 10 centimeters through this evening, and then things really start to taper off after midnight and towards Friday morning. But again, by the time we are said and done here, we are talking about anywhere from 15 to as much as 30 plus centimeters for that central through southeastern parts of Labrador. Sustained winds still near 50 kilometers per hour in Cartwright. The center of the low you can see there right just offshore into the Labrador Sea. Winds have not been too bad across the island today and into tonight. We are looking at some gusts upwards of 40 to 50 kilometers per hour, but overall, pretty decent out there. Temperatures have started 9 degrees in St. John's this morning. We're down to 2 now, and we'll kind of hover around that freezing mark over the next couple of days. Below for Friday into the Saturday time period, and then back above freezing. So again, I'll show you that in just a minute. And across Labrador, you can see where temperatures anywhere from -5 in Cartwright to -10 in through Labrador City. Satellite and radar picture shows that low, which is departing. And again, in those winds that are rolling in across the island, we're seeing some onshore flurries fire up, and some of those have been very heavy. One particular band that's been rolling up through the Corner Brook region, and especially between Corner Brook and up towards the Howley region and the Bayvert Peninsula. A very strong squall here that's been producing stormy conditions, and the TCH has been a mess there as a result. So heads up if you are on the road there over the next few hours. That band doesn't look to be going anywhere. And across the Avalon, we are continuing to see some flurries push in, including the Burin Peninsula and most of southeastern parts of Newfoundland, seeing that chance of some flurries even through this evening. Things ease off towards the overnight again for the Avalon, but the scattered chance of flurries continues into tomorrow morning. But not as much as we'll see into the afternoon. So you can see some light chances in the 30 to 40% range, but as we move into the Friday afternoon time period, well, first we'll show you tonight and those overnight lows by tomorrow morning, 0 to -2 for the southeast, as cold as -10 for low-lying areas of central, and -13 to 23 for inland parts of Labrador. So watch your timeline here, 7 a.m., and then notice as we move into the afternoon, the flurry chances really increase, especially for central parts of Newfoundland, eastern Newfoundland more so into the evening hours, and the west coast once again looking at more dominant cloud cover with a good chance of seeing some onshore flurries there. We'll start to flush things out and clear things out as we move into the Saturday time period. Well, you know what they do on St. Patrick's Day? They dye the beer green, so why not the ocean for my weather maps for tomorrow? Temperatures are going to be around that -1 to +2 range across the island, anywhere from -2 in the Straits to -11 in Labrador City. And in fact, if you're feeling a little unwell because St. Patrick's Day is tomorrow, you might just have the day off. Well, here's what it is shaping up to be like in St. John's. -2, chance of flurries into the morning and the afternoon. The best chance of flurries will be tomorrow evening, with a trace to even a couple centimeters locally, but those winds don't look like too much of an issue. Your long-range details are right through this weekend. Coming up.
While some students in Corner Brook have a whole new insight into the challenges of not being able to walk. They got to experience it through playing wheelchair basketball. What they learned after the break. Grade 8 students in Corner Brook traded their high-top sneakers for some wheels. The province's Wheelchair Sports Association donated wheelchairs to the school so students could get a feel for the sport and see what it's like to live without the use of your legs. Here now's Colleen Connors stopped by the school during gym class to check it out.
My name's Chloe Keating and I'm in grade 8. It was really fun to see how people who can't walk play basketball, but it was really hard turning and stuff because I've never done it before, but it was really fun in general. Shooting the basketball from the net because it was way higher than what I'm used to, and it was really hard turning because I wasn't sure which way to turn, but it was a lot of fun.
Okay, purple are going that way.
George Dollamount, and I'm a physical education and language teacher at Corner Brook Intermediate. It's very difficult at first. There's a knack to getting that wheelchair moving and maneuvering it in the right direction, and trying to play basketball and wheel the chair at the same time. It's quite tricky. I think the students have really gained an appreciation for people who are confined to a wheelchair and how difficult it is to get around. Well, we're always looking to implement new activities to enhance student participation and motivation. And we thought also that it would help the students gain an appreciation for people who are confined to a wheelchair on a daily basis.
My name is Francisco Freiria. Yeah, because it's a different way of playing this kind of sport. And I've never really thought about how people who play wheelchair basketball felt. And I think it's like a great opportunity for them to be playing like this. So yeah, I think they should teach this like in every school because it's like a pretty way to see the perspective of other people.
Well, you can add Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to the list of fans of the musical Come From Away. As you heard earlier in the show, he was in New York last night. He brought with him former PM Jean Chrétien, as well as Donald Trump's daughter, Ivanka. Here now's Angela Antle got to speak with the Prime Minister one-on-one after the show.
I want to highlight in particular a whole bunch of extraordinary Newfoundlanders who are here in the crowd tonight. Yeah, not you, Mark Critch. I want to highlight, yeah, there you are. Someone who is here is the mayor of Gander, who was the mayor back then, Claude Elliott. Great to have you here, Claude. We also have, some distinguished and extraordinary Canadians, like former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien and his lovely wife, Aline. Plaisir de vous voir ici, Monsieur le Premier Ministre. Merci beaucoup de votre présence. We're also surrounded here by amazing American friends, people who have shared with us the ups and downs over the past years, the past century and a half of Canada's existence. The fact is we have a friendship between our two countries that are like no other, and this really emphasizes it, seeing so many good friends gathered here today to celebrate this great Canadian production.
What kind of message would you like Ivanka Trump to take back to the administration about this play, about the message?
I think the message is just the closeness between Canada and the United States. I mean, the way our lives are interwoven through the glories and through the darkest possible moments. I mean, we share the same continent, we share the same space, we share the same stories, and our lives are constantly intermingled.
But right now we're not sharing the same values around immigration and refugees.
We're always going to have differences of approaches on certain issues, but the fundamental hopes for the future, the responsibilities of keeping people safe and building a better future for our kids is something that we can always agree on.
Did she speak to you after the play?
She enjoyed it,
yes.
as did everyone in the theater. I think
yes, I saw.
It was a great night for that.
So the message is we are all come from a ways. Would you like to speak to Americans about that message, how you stand on refugees?
Well, I think this story really shows that even in those darkest moments, we can lean on each other, and being there for each other in times of difficulty is something that Newfoundlanders get, and it's certainly something that Canadians and Americans get.
It's a great Canadian message that it's what you are when you're open, generous, able to share, tolerant. That's Canada is best on display. That's why I'm here.
There was a sense of helplessness, powerlessness to be able to do something, anything to make this situation a bit better. And when Newfoundlanders found out, oh, we could just cook a casserole and that will help make things a little bit better. Well, everyone sent in so much food to Gander that even with the 6,000 extra people in Gander, there was no room for it all. So innovation kicked in, and Alf from the Salvation Army thought about it and realized that they could just turn the local hockey rink into the world's largest walk-in refrigerator, and that's exactly what they did. And that sort of example of everyone coming together and making things happen is, I know, what this story's all about.
Well, too few shrimp, too few crab, but there's a lot more cod. When we come back, we'll take a look at the state of the fishery in Newfoundland and Labrador. Welcome back to Here and Now. Crab and shrimp have been lucrative for fishermen in this province. The two stocks are worth a lot of money, but numbers are shrinking, and so has the quota. So could these species collapse like the cod did back in the 90s? Well, I met up with a scientist from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans to find out. Seeing these really big drops in terms of shrimp numbers, in terms of crab numbers, what's driving that?
We have several factors that are coming into play. One is the warming of the environment that we've seen over the last 2-3 decades or so. And the other element that plays into it is the increase in the groundfish stocks. Shrimp and crab are prey for things like cod, turbot, and so on. And so the resurgence of those stocks has had an impact because they are preying on those organisms. The other thing that comes into play is also the availability of capelin. If there are capelin in the water, cod and turbot and other things have a tendency of eating more capelin than they do shrimp. But when capelin are scarce, there's a tendency for them to move to shrimp or crab as a last resort.
You mentioned the ocean warming there. That sounds like it's an issue that's not going to go away. How big of a concern is it that this is going to continue to have a detrimental effect on these stocks?
Well, we're in about halfway through a normal warming cycle for the ocean around here. About every 35 years you go from a relatively cool period to a relatively warm period, and we probably have about 10-15 years left in this warming cycle, which is not the ideal environment for things like crab and shrimp, which are really cold water species.
You mentioned that the resurgence of the ground stock is one of the things that's detrimental to shrimp and crab, but how are the levels looking in terms of being able to actually switch and start harvesting those species again?
Well, the last assessment for cod indicated that it was still well below the limit reference point. It was still in the critical zone. I don't think that you're going to see cod coming up very quickly. We haven't seen the latest assessment, which is supposed to take place in a few weeks' time. But populations don't double in no time, right? So you have a tendency of requiring a fair bit of time. The other thing to consider is that cod are definitely not worth as much as shrimp and crab. So that comes into play as well for the harvesters.
So I guess then it's a double whammy. If you're losing the shrimp and cod quotas, and we've seen some substantial cuts made over the last year, but we're not ready yet to ramp up the quotas when it comes to things like cod.
It is a sort of a double hit, definitely. And that's unfortunately the reality of a system where you have relatively few species to harvest. When one goes down, if there is no buffer in the system, if you are harvesting at levels where you're always pushing the stocks to the limit of their production capacity, then you're going to run into problems.
Do we run a risk that the shrimp and crab could see a collapse like we saw in the cod fishery, and one that is more difficult to recover from, like we've seen with cod?
It's not an impossibility. We're not at that stage yet. The stocks are still there. There are elements that we have not considered, as well as the fact that we live in a stream. The Labrador current flows from north to south, and so the young stages of shrimp and crab are carried from north to south to some extent. We are studying the problem right now in trying to determine the interdependence among stocks. So it's difficult to say whether or not either of those stocks are in a position where they are pre-collapse. I think that would be irresponsible to sort of speculate on that. But, you know, the numbers have been going down, and it is a cause for concern.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you for the interest in our work.
I think people are still trying to recover from all that weather that we had last weekend, so please tell me we at least get a weekend off when it comes to severe weather.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a weekend off as well, and most of us are. And yeah, Peter, the good news is a quiet weekend ahead after some flurries for St. Patrick's Day on Friday. But we do have one more system to watch for, as always, with the Newfoundland weather. There's always one in the pipeline, and the next one is for Monday. And is that Sheila's brush or Sheila's messy mop? We'll explain in a minute. Winter storm warnings again still in effect for Happy Valley, Goose Bay to Labrador City, blowing snow advisories for the coast of Labrador. Those advisories and warnings will end tonight as that low departs and the snow tapers off to flurries. Onshore flurries continue for the west coast. Scattered flurry chances for central and eastern Newfoundland continue tonight and into tomorrow morning as well. The chances for flurries on the island tomorrow are more so into the afternoon and the evening hours. That's when we'll really pick up the chance of seeing anywhere from a trace to even a couple of centimeters, not out of the question. Again, dying the beer, why not the ocean? As we take a look at your provincial forecast for St. Patrick's Day, temperatures anywhere from -1 in the west, +2 in the east, -8 to -11 for inland parts of Labrador. Note the flurries on the go through your Friday evening. But as we move into the Saturday morning time period, there's a lingering chance in the east for Saturday morning, but into the afternoon, we're really starting to clear things out nicely. That's the good news. Have a look at your highs on Saturday. We're hovering near the freezing mark for the island. We're anywhere from -6 to -8 for Labrador, but again, a good chance of seeing some sunshine for everybody. Sun and cloud on the menu. Now, as we take a look into the Sunday time period, staying very quiet yet again. We've got high pressure that's dominating across the island, and for the most part, that's the name of the game. Slight risk of a flurry, not even enough to put it in my forecast for western parts of Labrador. Temperatures 2 on the plus side across the island, and again, -6 to -7 across the Big Land. Now, here is that, again, Sheila's brush, the first storm after St. Patrick's Day, so this would be it. And as we take a look forward with the future tracker, I think this is a little slow on the timing. I think that snow does spread in through the day on Monday. With that southerly flow, though, and the track expected to be somewhere across the island, I think there's a pretty good chance that we're mixing to ice and rain here in eastern Newfoundland for Monday night and in through Tuesday. Chance that central possibly stays all snow, but I think right now I'm leaning towards a mix for central through the overnight hours as well and into Tuesday. And western Newfoundland has a better chance of staying all snow, but either way, it is going to be a messy mix for a good chunk of the island. And again, those temperatures will really rise. You can see there 6 and 7 degrees by the time we get to Tuesday. We're then clearing out Wednesday into Thursday of next week. And in Labrador, your weekend forecast looking pretty good as well, with the flurry chances again by Tuesday.
Time now to meet our young athlete of the day, who's 7-year-old Toby Lundrigan. Toby's from Whitburn and participates in gymnastics, skating, and karate.
He's at Foley's Martial Arts 3 times a week. Keep up the good work. You're today's young athlete of the day, Toby.
Well, there are new rules for those pesky drones that you see flying overhead more and more often. We'll have a rundown on which places are now off limits after the break. $20. Welcome back to Here and Now, and we return now to our top story. The lawyer for Josh Chubbs, the man who's alleged to have offered to perform a circumcision on a young boy in Conception Bay North, spoke out today. John McDonald sat down with Here Now's Glenn Payette for an interview.
Here's that he's already admitted and told someone else, and that person has confirmed that he has performed a medical procedure.
I'd say quite the opposite. I mean, again, we have the capability in today's day and age of Facebook, Twitter, smartphones to spread information so rapidly, regardless of the validity of it or not. And in all likelihood, things like this can happen. Things can be said, things can be spread, regardless of how true they are. And again, I reiterate, they're going to be adjudicated upon in the courtroom and not on Facebook, Twitter, or elsewhere.
Well, it sounds to me like you're saying that your client might be the victim of a very malicious hoax.
That's not something that I'm going to say with 100% confidence at this point, so I'll definitely elaborate upon it and say it's certainly within the realm of possibility. I'm not saying it's definitive or anything like that, but I'm just saying because of how unregulated something like that is and the inability to contain it until we've had an opportunity to go through the court process, we can't definitively speak to anything because anybody can say or claim anything.
What can you tell me about the nature of these charges? Because they're certainly unusual. It's not something I've seen crop up a lot in criminal law, and he's charged under the Medical Act. So first off, is this a criminal charge?
No, so I think you've picked up on the distinction. It is charged under the Medical Act. I believe it's an information with 2 counts under the Medical Act, and so it's a regulatory offense and different from a more standard criminal charge that we see. However, certainly as we see, the province does have the ability in regulating the profession to lay these charges, and of course there are still consequences with a conviction or a guilty plea. So there are some similarities to criminal law, but some differences as well.
And what would the consequences be? Have you looked at that?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I do think that the Act does allow for a maximum fine of $10,000 and a maximum prison term of 6 months.
On each charge, or?
I believe it is on each charge.
Well, the federal transport minister today announced new rules for unmanned aerial vehicles or drones. The remotely operated aircraft have soared in popularity in recent years. Along with their growth in numbers has come a jump in dangerous incidents, especially involving passenger aircraft. The new regulations are designed to make the skies safer, but as Aaron Saltzman reports, some say whether this will or will not is still up in the air.
The feel of flight, dreamt about for eons. Now, thanks to technology, a growing danger caused by people who never actually leave the ground.
Some people are still flying model aircraft, specifically recreational drones, in higher risk areas.
So the government is bringing in tough new rules for recreational drones that weigh more than 250 grams, or bigger than most kids' toys. Operators can't fly higher than 90 meters or at night. They must stay at least 75 meters away from buildings, vehicles, and people. And they'll have to mark their drones with their contact information. Any operator who comes within 9 kilometers of any airport will now face fines of up to $3,000.
There have been several very worrying incidents in Canada involving near collisions of drones with aircraft.
2 of those incidents happened at Toronto's Billy Bishop Airport last year. In one, a Porter Airlines flight had to take evasive action after a near collision. The new regulations only affect recreational drones, not commercial or academic use.
This is a commercial drone. The operator just over there has training, a special flight operations certificate, liability insurance. Recreational users don't need any of that.
Part of it seems to be a bit of an overreaction.
Alan Castell has been flying drones for fun and commercially for years. He says some of the restrictions seem excessive, but he also agrees better regulations and education are needed.
I fly the small racing drones. I've seen people doing that where they're doing that in a city park where there's people walking dogs around. And it's not going to kill somebody, but it's going to take an eye out, or it's going to do some serious damage if one of these falls into or flies into somebody's.
These new rules take effect immediately, and the government is promising more regulations in the coming months, including perhaps a minimum age requirement. Aaron Saltzman, CBC News, Toronto.
A Dutch court has given the man accused of harassing and tormenting 15-year-old BC teen Amanda Todd the maximum sentence possible. 38-year-old Aidan Coban was sentenced to 10 years and 8 months in prison for charges related to extortion and child sex crimes. Among his victims are dozens of young girls. The Amsterdam District Court says Coban received the maximum possible sentence because of both the consequences of his behavior and concerns that he will reoffend. A ruling on whether he will be extradited to Canada for charges related to the death of Amanda Todd is expected next month. Well, a daring escape was made by a kidnapped woman in Alabama this week. This surveillance video emerged today and shows her jumping out of the trunk of a moving vehicle. The 25-year-old was then able to run inside and call for help. She told police she was kidnapped at gunpoint on her walk home and then forced into the car. The suspected kidnappers tried to use her credit card to get money. Lucky there she wasn't injured. Ollie the Jack Russell Terrier wasn't intimidated by the bright lights of the 2017 Crufts Dog Show in the UK.
Closes out the group. This is the last of the small frogs. He's all over the place, and so he should be.
Well, despite making a few wrong turns and getting distracted by the crowd, Ollie's energy proved infectious. The crowd loves this little guy, and so does the internet. This video has now been viewed more than 7 million times on YouTube. I wonder what he's like when he's running around the house.
Yeah.
Oh! Takes a fall, but he just gets up again.
Yeah. Yeah, no way my pooches could keep up with that dog. All right, quick look at your provincial forecast again for tomorrow. And again, dyed the ocean green for you for St. Patrick's Day. 2 on the plus side in St. John's, -1 in Corner Brook, -11 in Labrador City. Things looking pretty good overall. And we'll leave you with our viewer picture of the day, a blanket of snow. Literally.
Aw,
courtesy of Loretta in St. Anthony.
Almost feels like you could just pull it right over you, except it would be freezing cold instead of warm and snuggly.
We are known for our laundry here in Newfoundland and Labrador, right?
That is not a good day on clothes, though, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And that's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching.
Good night, everyone.